Hello, and you can probably hear the wind today in this video, and I really hope that it's not obnoxious, but there is no way to go anywhere in this house to avoid that sound. You can hear everything. I decided to do this video today in the bathroom, which is where I started my segments, in the bathroom, because I wasn't sure where to do things for lighting, but this, however, this segment kind of wanted to talk to you guys about a couple different things. I know only a couple people watch this, but it's okay. I do this for me. This door is the door that I was shot through. It was taken very good care of, but this tiny little hole that you can't see is where I was shot through. I can see it really close up. There was also a punch in this door at one point in time, but my partner, he painted the door really well a couple months after it happened, repaired it, and then put it back on. It doesn't close anymore for some reason though, and we think that might be the expansion of like heat and cold going through the house. Not sure. We have baseboard heat, so I guess with this segment, I really wanted to discuss that I realized that my PTSD is manifesting in many different forms, and one of the worst, and I know I've discussed this a couple times, is nightmares. And also, I feel like it's a contributing factor as to why I have these mini seizure episodes and crying fits. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense, but the crying has gotten to such an excessive point. I used to say that I was an emotional human being, and growing up I was before anything traumatic had ever happened to me. You know, I've always been chemically imbalanced. But after a couple head injuries from the ages of 19 to 21, and they were always closed head injuries, but they were always from blackouts, or one of them was I stood up too quick and I hit my head in a very weird spot, just right about here, and ever since then I started doing all these weird things, like walking on my tiptoes and having confusion and really worse headaches than I used to have. But I've also blamed the headaches on a hormonal imbalance. This is really weird to do this video right now because in front of me is a mirror, so I'm seeing myself in the screen and the mirror. But now, since what happened to me and my partner 8 months ago, I realized though that this is more PTSD related anyway, because I've always had like nightmares and unpleasant dreams. I mean, I've never really liked dreaming. It's never been fun for me. I've always hated it. I've always wished that I could just go to sleep and not dream, but apparently that's important in the cycle. Even though with all scientific studies, they still don't know everything there is to know about dreams, but from what I've heard from very little people I've been able to speak with about PTSD, that, and a victim of violence, and I know it's nothing compared to somebody going out on the battlefield and, you know, having to kill people, having to see people die around you, and all that violence. It's not to that extreme, but what happened to me and my partner was not normal, and it was extremely graphic and violent. And I have dreams about being hurt quite often, but I also have dreams, or I should call them nightmares because they are not dreams, where I'm physically hurting people. And typically it's actually my partner, which is horrible because I would never put my hands on him. And the other night I felt, I could feel it, physically I could feel myself violently like attacking him, and I could actually feel myself like palming him in the face, like his teeth against my hand. I remember waking up being worried that I had done something I wasn't supposed to, and I'm in my bed. Thank God I don't sleepwalk or anything like that, but it's still really scary for me. And I'm thankful that I have a partner that I can talk to about this kind of stuff. Obviously, we've been to hell and back. Obviously, we can talk about anything and everything, but I'm the person who talks about stuff that's unpleasant and uncomfortable, and he doesn't bring that stuff up as much. So sometimes I feel like an asshole for being that person that does talk about it too much. And with what happened to us, I try to bring it up less and less. But it has gotten easier for us to discuss, even though it really ruined a lot in our lives. It took away so much. The person that committed this crime against us didn't ruin his life half as much as he ruined ours. And people always say, oh, it's good to see you're doing well, and thank God you're alive, and you know, like all this stuff. Like they think that I'm fine just because I look like I'm able-bodied. Like, yeah, the only thing wrong with me now is like that I can't lift this hand. Like, that's it. And I can't do all kinds of like things like closing my fist. So that's like all you see on the outside. But really, it's a lot worse than that. Like, this incident made us looked at as if like we were the people who committed this crime, as if it was completely 100% our fault, and like this could have been prevented if we were just better people. So it ruined our relationships with our children because of the people who are the sole caretakers of our children. Now thankfully he sees his child and I see my youngest child. Like, have to count all our blessings in that sense, obviously, but the situation is completely wrong, and I usually I haven't brought up my children, I don't believe, on my YouTube account, but that's an extremely touchy subject. But I'm willing to talk about anything and everything. No holds barred here. Again, I'm also struggling with when I want to go to bed at night. I want it to be quiet. I don't really want the radio on. I don't want to listen to music as I'm going to sleep. But I'm also struggling to actually fall asleep without, usually YouTube helps me sleep. I watch something like CinemaSins or something like that. Sometimes Red and Link, Smosh, Funny or Die, those things. But my partner usually sleeps with like nothing on, sometimes music. He falls asleep, and he falls asleep so easily, and I just can't. I'm stuck, plagued with these like violent images and thoughts, and if I hear little noises, I'm still kind of like thinking, oh, somebody could be breaking into my house again. Here it goes. I'm getting shot in the face this time. I'm not going to survive this time. This bathroom, I believed I was going to die in 8 months ago. I didn't lock myself in here, but I closed the door, and as I closed the door, I got shot. And I didn't know that I had been shot, but I had literally been shot as I was closing the door. If I hadn't been closing the door, I would have been shot in the chest instead, and likely I wouldn't be here speaking. I tried to get up on this toilet over here to get out this window up here, and there's still some of my blood in the curtain blinds. Try to clean up this bathroom as best that we could, but I'm sure there's still a lot. And I'm sure if you've ever seen forensic files, you can never really get every ounce of DNA. Like when something tragic happens, if crime is committed, you can't get rid of all that stuff. So this house is spattered in mine and my partner's blood, unfortunately. Thankfully, the day after he came back home from the hospital and he cleaned everything, and I was still in the hospital obviously for a couple days. I don't know how I was supposed to feel or think after something like this happened. In fact, when I was in the hospital, I remember still being in such a mental denial about everything that I didn't know how my life would be. And I actually thought that don't know, I believed that people would be more like, leave me alone rather than be so nasty and violent and ignorant. I didn't realize that people would literally message me just to find out, like, if it was true what happened to me, just so that they continue with like all the other bullshit stories they got told by somebody, so they could say that I was a piece of shit and I deserve to die, and hopefully I kill myself before I take anyone else down with me. And that it's too bad I didn't get shot with a shotgun. You name it, there was like 40 to 60 people who were joyous and celebrating me being shot. And let me tell you, only 2 of these people actually knew me, and they were exes. So it blows my mind how like somebody can treat you like absolute crap their entire time that they know you, and you try everything to just be like a good little dog and obey to their bullshit, and you know, it gets turned around on you that you are this horrible, horrible human being. And that's the thing that I had to learn the hard way in the last couple of years. If somebody treats you like absolute garbage, they barely ever treat you good. And the only ways that they do treat you good is like if they're expecting something else in return. And they might like buy you a bunch of food or gifts or something like that, and really try to pretend like they do everything for you, like you couldn't live without them. And truly, they're just a really bad person inside. And you will never win. You'll never, ever get to be the good person. You'll always be the bad person. And that's just how they feel. But deep down, it's really that maybe there really isn't anything wrong with you. It's all what's wrong with them. And they like are stuck in their past from something shitty that happened to them that they can't get past forever, and they're never going to change. There's people, they're at a certain age and you're like, oh, when is that person going to grow up? And it's just not going to happen. A lot of people have told me also that like it's time for me to move on with my life. It's been 8 months for one. 2, I would never wish this kind of thing to happen on you, but if it did, I'd like to know how you would handle it differently. I promise that I believe in my soul that I'm doing the best that I can to continue on with my life. I think my partner is the strongest person I've ever met, because he works every day except for on the weekends, and he still moves on with his life. He does everything as if nothing's ever happened, and bless his soul, because every day I'm plagued with something about it. I'm physically messed up, and they took that nerve out of my leg and put it in my arm. So much of my body doesn't feel like it belongs to me anymore. Like, my scars are usually hidden, and they don't look that bad to some people, and that's okay. And I'm not like ashamed of my scars or anything like that. It's just that I can't explain to you how much of a Frankenstein's creation I am, both physically and mentally. And I'm doing the best I can to